If this recent new moon in Pisces felt more to you like a full moon than a new moon, you're not alone. It is a moon that was really more about endings than simply about new beginnings. So we're going to get into that. I know I'm about recording this about 2 days after the fact. So we're not going to only go into the new moon in Pisces in today's video. We're going to talk about the new moon in Pisces. We're going to talk about Mercury stationing to go direct right before the sun entered into Aries, dawning the start of a whole new astrological new year, right? A whole new journey for the sun to move through the zodiac wheel. It began yesterday on Friday, the 20th of March. We're also going to talk about the fact that it's also, of course, it's the equinox, right? As well as something very interesting is that if the sun entered Aries, wherever you are in the world, on Friday, the 20th of January, Friday, the 20th of March, as it did for most of us, then you're also going to notice that when you break that down numerologically, it breaks down to 33. So, how am I getting that? 20, the 20th of March. The third month is March. 20 plus 3 is 23, right? And then we're in a number 10 year. So 23 plus 10 is 33. Now, what's even interesting about that is even before you get to the 33, if you break down the day and the month, the 20 plus the 3, that is actually an Aquarian degree. 23 is an Aquarian degree, right? And if you want to take it even farther and you want to go into the breaking down of the 20 plus the 3, 20 is the Judgment card and 3 is the Empress. And I find this so interesting because the Judgment card has been coming out a lot when I've been pulling around the energies of the past few days. And so Judgment, it speaks of the end of something. It's coming to the close of something, but it's also a portal of rebirth. It's a portal of resuscitation. It's a portal of restoration and restitution. So there's a lot of Judgment energies that are kind of underpinning this whole new moon in Pisces. And the fact that it is moving through the Empress energy, if we're going by breaking down the date in accordance with the tarot astrology, then the Empress is the divine feminine aspect within the tarot that denotes the birthing of something in real time. Okay, so it's interesting because it feels like there are a few themes that are occurring through this new moon in Pisces, the sun entering into Aries, as well as Mercury going direct. And I feel it has a lot to do with the Divine Mother and her principles returning to the earth through this portal in a way where now her presence is going to be felt through our material reality. Her day of judgment on the earth in real time, it feels like it's here, and it feels like it was really birthed through this Aries, this Piscean Aries portal. And this Piscean Aries portal is so significant because in and of itself, it is a portal of judgment. It is a rebirth portal. Because when you get to that 29th degree of Pisces, and when the sun is moving from the 29th degree of Pisces into the 0 degrees of Aries, or when any, planet is moving from the 29th degree of Pisces into the 0 degrees of Aries, it's entering into a portal of rebirth, what I call an alpha omega portal. This is where cycles come to die and new cycles come to be reborn or to be repeated. This is what occurs at that moment where Pisces ends and Aries begins. So it already is a very potent portal of rebirth. And then on top of it, because we are presently, dealing with the nodal transits, the North Node moving through Pisces, this is even more activated and magnified. And then even further, when the moon entered into her new state in Pisces on Thursday, the 19th of March, for me, and for some of you guys, Wednesday, the 18th of March, Mercury was still retrograding. And she was retrograding, I say she, but Mercury always presents itself to me as completely, without gender. But for now, I'm just going to say she. She was expressing herself still. She was still retrograding, and she was at the 8th degree. So she pulled into the degree that she was getting ready to go direct in. And this is significant also, and we're going to get into that today too. Okay, so we've got a lot to unpack. So grab a beverage, do whatever you need to do to chill out. My name is Solarah. I'm here to do your new moon in Pisces Tarot Astrology Ascension report. But like I said, we're also going to be diving into this Mercury retrograde energy, as well as the equinox and the sun entering Aries energy. I am not a traditional astrologer. If you are a stickler for traditional astrology and the ways that that is normally broken down, I am probably not the one for you. I utilize the astrological chart. I do use the Western astrological chart for now. I'm not married to it in any way. I can pretty much pull the same energies even if I use a chart that's looking at the sky astronomically. But as we are in the final phase of the false matrix dying, I'm still using the Western astrology chart until my soul directs me into shifting another way. And that is simply for the fact that the way out of the false matrix is going to be through connecting to these energies, the way astrology was established through the way out of something is the way that you entered. So a lot of the way out is going to connect to how the collective consciousness has been turned towards astrology. So it has less to do with the chart and more to do with the collective consciousness and the focus there as we clear ourselves of the false matrix. Okay? So let's get into it. On Thursday, the 19th of March, where I was in the world, at 1:23 in the morning, so we got that 1-2-3 energy. I had that also here with the full moon in Virgo. It occurred at 12:34, where I am in the world, the full moon in Virgo. So that's the 1-2-3-4. And now we have the new moon in Pisces here occurring at the 1-2-3. 1-2-3-4, 1-2-3 means let's get it going. Something's moving, right? So it happened for me at 1:23 in the morning on Thursday, the 19th of March. For many of you, it might have occurred on Wednesday, the 18th of March. Okay, so this is the final. Let me just double check before I state that for sure. I'm pretty sure it is. This is a final new moon in a long sequence of new moons that has occurred at the 28th degree, beginning, I believe, from the new moon in Libra last year. So let me just take you back very quickly to the significance of this, right? So last year when the sun entered Virgo in August, we had the first of 2 new moons in Virgo. And we also had the entryway into the eclipse season. So at the 0 degree point of Virgo, we had the new moon in Virgo. Okay, so when the sun was at 0 degrees of Virgo, the sun had just entered Virgo, we had a new moon at 0 degrees Virgo. 2 weeks later, we had a full moon in Pisces. That was the first eclipse of the season. And then 2 weeks after that, in the 3rd week of September, we had the second of 2 new moons that occurred in Virgo season, what I like to call bookend moons, because they both occurred at the anaretic degrees. So the second new moon in Virgo last September happened at 29 degrees. So we had the 0 degree new moon, then we had the full moon in Pisces eclipse, then we had the new moon in Virgo eclipse occurring at the 29th degree. And then from then on, every new moon that has occurred since that time has been at the 28th degree. So the new moons in Libra, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, and now Pisces have all been at that 28th degree mark. Okay, so that's 5 5 new moons: Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. No, sorry, Pisces. That's 6 new moons. 6 new moons at that 28th degree. Now, why is this significant? 28 as a degree is a degree of Cancer. Okay. Now, that Virgo new moon that occurred, the eclipse in the 3rd week of September, occurred at the 29th degree, which is a degree of Leo. So this was already showing us there was something of the Leo energy, the 29th degree very specifically, that was significant in the opening of this 6-month corridor from that eclipse. And so to take you into like the significance of that, let's think about what we're entering into here through the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is opening the gates on Earth again for a new golden age to return. Golden age timelines to occur on the Earth. And many people will have their own, definition of what this means. For me, how I interpret it, how I have felt it, how I have, connected with this energy, it has to do with the timelines on the Earth functioning at the baseline frequency of love and above. Okay, so if you look at a vibrational scale, you'll be able to see different frequencies and how they correlate. And the Earth has been operating predominantly in fear, so survival within the root chakra. And really, we're supposed to vibe from the heart and above in order to have what we call these golden age timelines. Okay, so the last golden age on the Earth was the age of Leo, right? And so the return of this new golden age on Earth is coming through Leo's sister sign, Aquarius. And that's not a mistake either, because energy is, it's not as woo-woo as people think. There is a method to how things are shifting and moving, right? So there's a reason why this golden age is coming through the Aquarian gateway, because in coming back onto the Earth through the age of Aquarius, we are reconnecting to its sister age. It's the gateway to the age of Leo. We can connect to it through Aquarius. This is significant because a lot of what we lost in the age of Leo through the introduction of the Atlantean timelines that started a lot of contracts of overtaking us in our own mastery codes and our own sovereignty and our own ability to live in accordance with our source truth, through the introduction of beings who started to mediate in that connection before it became what we now know as a false matrix, right? A lot of those original golden age codes from the age of Leo, in order for the Earth to be brought back around to a new golden age, we do need to connect with the previous timelines of that golden age, because they hold foundational information that still exists on the Earth, but we have been unable to unlock it because it wasn't time, because of fuckery, because of the collective energy not being at a place where it could hold the frequency, so many different reasons. But either way, we've been going through this process of deep shedding in order to be able to hold what is necessary to bring those golden age timelines back on Earth. And so the new moon in Virgo last year, when it occurred at the 29th degree, it was heralding a potent window in which a lot of source code that had been, I don't want to say it had been overwritten per se, but it had, was able to come back online. And this is the source code that went defunct through what occurred in the age of Leo. I hope you're still with me. Okay, so now, once the new moon started to shift at that 28th degree, beginning with the new moon in Libra last year, we started to focus on Cancerian energy. 28 is a Cancerian degree. Why is this important? Because Cancer energy connects us to the grid structures of the earth. Okay, it connects us with the very foundations upon which all cycles are built. So every single cycle that has existed, whether it's a personal or a collective cycle, it began somewhere. Where it began is where it has its roots and its foundation. And here's the thing, once a foundation has been set, a cycle cannot move away from the truth of what that foundation is. In other words, a cycle must behave in exactly the same way that the foundation has dictated. Okay, and foundations become firmer through repetition. So why is this important? Because through that new moon in Virgo at the 29th degree, it was bringing forth a new code on the earth to reinstate the materialization of source code, the source code that is necessary for golden age timelines to be materialized. And then with every new moon since at this Cancerian degree, it's been a coding of the grids of the earth back into that code, so that now our cycles can be based upon a foundation that is rooted in source code and in what is necessary to create golden age timelines and cycles. This is also important because it helps you to understand why ascension doesn't just occur like this. In order to undo the cycles that we have been unconsciously giving to, repeating, creating, we have to disturb and destroy the very foundation upon which those cycles were built. And so through that eclipse corridor last year in Virgo season, we began to really get to the nitty-gritty of our own foundational stories on a personal level as well as a collective level, but let's focus on the personal story. We started to get more to the foundational templates that have contributed to our distorted cycles that have occurred throughout the duration of our time in the false matrix. So we've been going through this awakening time of finally being able to see at some point what it was that we were creating, and then having to move through the muck and the mire of not just being able to recognize the cycles, but be able to clear and shift within ourselves what it is that kept those cycles going until we got to the very foundation where we've been literally like gutting things out from the basement for the purpose of rebuilding. And so I say all of this because this final new moon in Pisces, this final new moon at the 28th degree that is occurring in Pisces, I said to you at the very beginning, it's felt a lot more like a full moon than a new moon, because it's kind of like the end of this gutting process. So this process of gutting the very foundations that had to be pulled out now for the new ones to actually become stable. Because remember also, when we're dealing with energy and cycles, we're never really dealing with something definitive. We're always dealing with crossover energy. So as we're gutting, we're also planting. So there's a dual effect occurring. In other words, as we're ripping out the old foundation, we're also applying for the new. Okay, but this Piscean window has been very, very purgative in nature. And in all frankness, Piscean energy is supposed to be, but this year it's been like hyper intense because of all of the other energy we're dealing with. So because we had Mercury going into retrograde, pretty much near the beginning of Pisces season. I think we were like maybe a week into Pisces season when Mercury went into retrograde, right? And then of course, because we also have the North Node in like moving through Pisces also. So this is a lot. And then of course we had Saturn and Neptune entering into Aries. And Aries and Pisces energy, they work together to close out a cycle and begin something new. And so with those planets going ahead into Aries, we're already having that Aries Pisces collision, because you begin to feel that. I spoke about this in a few shorts this week. When you get especially to the end of Pisces season, because remember I said energies overlap. It's not like Pisces season ends and Aries season begins. No, as Pisces season is coming to a close, that Aries energy is already building and you're already feeling it, especially if you're sensitive. And even now, as Aries season begins, we're still dealing with Piscean energy. It's still moving out, right? So when Aries and Pisces meet, because they are fire and water, and then also because one sign is devoted to closing things out, whereas another sign is a whole new revolution, a whole new entry point, a whole new beginning, that clashing is even more intense even than what you feel with the transition of Cancer moving into Leo or Scorpio moving into Sagittarius, right? That Pisces Aries portal is intense because it's literally a death and rebirth portal. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So when Mercury went retrograde about 3 weeks ago, it went retrograde at the 22nd degree of Pisces. Now, the 22nd degree is a master degree. It's a degree of mastery, as is the 11th degree, in my opinion, 0 degrees, 29 degrees. 13 for me also has some divine mother mastery, and 19 is about self-mastery more than anything. 22 for me is the degree that speaks about the mastery of the material. This is where you begin to understand and overstand how you're able to draw something into the visible from the invisible consciously and conscientiously. So we weren't taught to do that in the false matrix. We were taught to focus on the material only, to our own detriment, because it blocked us out of our ability, 2211 when I said that, it blocked us out of our ability to, and 1911 on my clock. So it's 2211 on the timer and 1911 on the clock, and 74% battery, 11. A lot of 11s, gateway energy. So, but back to, we're talking about the master number 22, okay? So 22, it's how we begin to master our ability to create consciously in the material. In the false matrix, they wanted us focused solely on the material so that we wouldn't come back into connection with our sovereignty and how we are conscious source code creators. So to have us focused on the material put us completely out of alignment with self and with source. So 22 is when we begin to get that mastery back of how we utilize our connection to all things invisible in the spirit, in the mental planes, in the emotional planes to bring forth reality. 22 is also a degree of Capricorn, and Capricorn is also the sign of the zodiac wheel that has to do with how timelines come into being on the earth. Okay, so Mercury went retrograde at the 22nd degree of Pisces, which is 10 of Cups energy. So we're already being shown that there's something to do with the mastery of knowing how to co-create in ways that honor our source code, right? That's kind of what the 10 of Cups is to a certain extent, because the 10 of Cups requires for us to have graduated from the 9 of Cups, right? So the 9 of Cups is where you learn how to create and to live from your own source code, from your own joy templates, from what it is that brings forth internal harmony. That's the 9 of Cups. And the 10 of Cups is how you then are able to co-create with others based upon your ability to stay grounded in what it is that nurtures your own source code and your own sense of harmony, what keeps you in harmonic coherence with self, with source, and therefore with the earth. Then you're able to co-create with others in integrity, right? So this Mercury retrograde, although it began at the 22nd degree, its focus has been this second decan of Pisces. It went directly through the entirety of the second decan of Pisces until it got to the 8th degree of Pisces and stationed to go direct again. Now that second decan of Pisces is focused on the Nine of Cups, right? So already through that information, we're being shown what this Mercury retrograde was designed to do. And that is that it's time for us to come into proper alignment with how we co-create timelines. But we can't do that if we're not properly, fully aware of where, in any tiny way, we're still martyring self, or we're still not living in accordance fully with our own joy and with our own source code, or we're not protecting that. So this Mercury retrograde has been very, very focused on teaching us where we need to pay attention to where we're moving out of the Nine of Cups. Because if we are to move into the Ten of Cups and to co-create timelines, golden age timelines on the earth, if we are to be true to one another's source code in the co-creative collaboration that brings forth golden age timelines, we must first be true to our own source code. And your own source code will always connect you to your own unique connection with what brings you joy. Okay, this is what the Nine of Cups is. Now, in the false matrix, they use this Piscean energy of co-creation against us. They had us constantly, all of us, constantly giving up the protection of our own source code for the purpose of collaborating. And they called it doing it for the greater good. But really, that's what opens up energy harvesting dynamics. Energy harvesting dynamics are a result of us not being rooted in ourselves and in our source code, and therefore losing that constant flow of energy, and therefore needing to outsource and connect to other things outside of ourselves and other beings in order to get for ourselves what we should be getting and what we would be getting if we were maintaining our direct connection to source and to ourselves, and if we were protecting and nurturing our own source code and our right to create from that place of joy. Okay, so this is what this Mercury retrograde has kind of been fine-tuning. And then in the midst of that, we have had, the full moon in Virgo eclipse, which was huge because I believe that occurred at the 12th degree of Virgo, which again is it's an inversion number. 12 is a number of inverting something. It's a number that connects us in the tarot to the Hanged Man, the Hanged One card. It's also a degree of Pisces. And indeed, that's what Piscean energy does. Pisces, when you get to the close of Pisces, it opens, like I said, it's a portal that is a death and rebirth portal. But if you're not rising into a new cycle, then you get flipped back into the old one. This is why Pisces and the 12th house is called the house of hidden enemies. It's because it's where a lot of things lurk, not only in the invisible, but they lurk under the pretense of being something that they're not. And those things are the very things that can pull you back into flipping yourself right back into the same cycle or loop that you're actually supposed to graduate from and move into the new cycle through Aries, right? So, and a lot of the reason why those things remain invisible or they appear to be something they're not, it has to do with our allegiance to serving the group outside of self. Okay, because Pisces is the sign of the zodiac that is here to emphasize our oneness, our togetherness, because that's true. We are all one, but we're not able to be one as a collective if we're not first whole in self. And in the false matrix, they exploited this Piscean energy that is here to remind us of our interconnectedness and oneness, to get us to sacrifice ourselves and pretend like what we're doing is to create oneness amongst one another. But really what we were doing was sacrificing ourselves, and in doing so, also sacrificing one another. So there was no oneness being achieved there. Even if we all shared we all gave to the same initiative. If we're giving to the same initiative, but we're giving from a place of self-sacrifice, then actually that's what creates the energy harvesting, because some people are going to thrive and while others don't. And some are going to thrive at the expense of other people suffering. So the Piscean energy is very good for creating those kinds of imbalanced dynamics when that whole philosophy around oneness is distorted. Okay, so we had the full moon in Virgo eclipse. And again, the full moon in Virgo, it acts as a huge death portal. It's where timelines come to die. It's the final full moon on the zodiac calendar, right? So every year, the final full moon is going to be in Virgo, which tells you it's a moon of completion. It's the completion of the cycle. And full moons come to clear. So the full moon in Virgo is like the final clearing point of a cycle. So it is a death portal. It's where the timelines that are defunct, they go to die. The habits that you have learned are not going to fit you in your new timelines, and you have divested yourself of those energies and those codes. It goes through the full moon in Virgo portal, right? So that in and of itself is already, a very powerful clearing, closing, energy corridor. And then you add to it the eclipse. And of course, the fact that the South Node is in Virgo. And so the full moon in Virgo was huge this year for what it was here to accomplish in terms of things closing out. And then since the full moon in Virgo, we have had Jupiter has gone direct. And I talked about this on my other channel, Solarah Speaks, in the last reading that I did, because I get pretty fucking tired of people talking about Jupiter in such a one-dimensional way. Because Jupiter going direct was not about all of a sudden, the wealth portals and the portals of expansion are just suddenly going to rain gold down on you. That is bullshit. Jupiter is a planet of law. Jupiter is a planet that, alongside Saturn, it enforces law. Law is not about just willy-nilly throwing out gold. Law has to be true to the rule that it's enforcing. So Jupiter, where Saturn comes to bring the law and the definition and the boundaries around those laws, Jupiter implements it. So this Jupiter going direct is less about all of a sudden, the gates of expansion are open for everyone. And it's more about reinstating the proper foundational laws on the earth that allow for proper exchange, as well as proper nurturance. Okay, because Jupiter didn't just go direct in any sign. It has been retrograding in Cancer, right? What's going on with the new moon in Pisces? We're at a fucking Cancerian degree. What does Cancer rule over? Foundations. Every cycle can only be true to the foundation it is set upon. So what has Jupiter's job been throughout this whole time? It's been moving through Cancer these past, 4 or 5 months? I forget how long it's been. I think it's been about 4 months. Its focus has been helping us to come into a place of getting ready for what it is that we ultimately deserve in our source code by focusing on the clearing of our foundations, the building, what it is we need to build a new foundation. We have to clear, we have to make room for it. We have to remember what it is for our nervous systems to even be able to hold everything that we are on the earth again. This is what Jupiter is expanding right now. And as such, if Jupiter is here to help like heal and expand your nervous system again for you to hold what is rightfully yours, it's first going to hit every single thing that's keeping you in fragmentation. So when Jupiter went direct the other day, I don't know about y'all, but you know, how I experience it and how I've spoken to other people candidly, it hasn't been like a walk in the park. It's been like Jupiter is here to alongside this Mercury retrograde that was pulling in through Pisces as the sun was moving through the final degrees of Pisces. Jupiter was here to help us really expunge a lot of like heavy shit that's been lurking in our fields that you know, we've been unconsciously building from, especially when it comes to the mother wound. You know why? Because all foundations are built upon the motherboard. Not just the mother as a being, as a person. All cycles are built, all creation comes through the mother. How many of you like use apple cider vinegar or drink kombucha? Right? How many of you know about the fermentation process in order to replicate and continue to produce apple cider vinegar, kombucha, June tea, whatever it is that you might create? You have to have a starter that's also sometimes known as the mother, because all life has to come from that, and replication is only possible from that original source of energy. So when you're dealing with Jupiter going direct after a retrograde period in Cancer, you're dealing with a real focus on the mother energies of creation, the mother energies of creation on the earth, the mothers of the earth in biological form, our relationship, because we all have come from mothers, our relationship with our mothers, our relationship with ourselves based upon how we were able to learn who we are through that mother-child relationship, as well as literally the foundations of every single thing we've been creating. Where all of our cycles are coming from, why we've been creating the way we've been creating, why we've been manifesting realities and timelines the way we've been manifesting or creating them. We got to go back to the mother energy, the foundation, and we got to make the foundation right if we're going to build something else, if we're going to create golden age timelines, if we're going to create whole new golden age cycles. Then we got to create whole new foundations that support that. We got to have a nervous system, which is part of your body's foundation for holding things. We got to get that right. So Jupiter wasn't here to all of a sudden expand us and give us wealth. Jupiter was here to make you ready to hold it, to hold who you are on a foundational level, to create the foundations you need to hold these timelines, these golden age timelines and codes that are here to come forth through you, but only if you have the resonance and the foundation through which they can come to life. And more than just come to life, they can be replicated and sustained. Because how many of you have dealt, especially throughout this ascension, with touching some of your higher timelines only to not be able to really hold them? And yes, you know, this whole like attacks and the fuckery, it's real. But even in the midst of that, what those things were teaching us were where all our vulnerabilities are in terms of how we've abandoned protecting our own source code. It was all teaching us to get to this point where now we build the foundation again. We've cleared out the rubbish. Now we have to build. rebuild the foundation that allows for us not to only touch those timelines, but to anchor them in, to hold them, to sustain them, to maintain them, to replicate them, to pass them on. This is what Jupiter is interested in. Jupiter is interested in helping you to come into awareness of what your system needs to create long-term, sustainable wealth based upon who you are. Jupiter also wants to give you back that true relationship with yourself, with how you need to nurture and care for yourself in order for those timelines to be fruitful. Remember, I said that Mercury retrograde in Pisces is focusing on the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups is how you nurture also your own source code so that you are creating from joy. You are creating in harmony with your truth. You are multiplying your harmonic coherence on the earth. You're not engaging or indulging in things that put you at war with yourself, right? So the whole focus of all of the planets at this juncture, all of the transits, it's been this, you know? And so now, what was it like? Yesterday at 7:36 in the morning, my time, Mercury stationed to go direct, which means it stopped its retrograde phase. So about 30 hours after the new moon in Pisces, at the 28th degree of Pisces, Mercury 30 hours later stops its retrograde phase at the 8th degree of Pisces, while the sun is at the 29th degree. So we're at that closing degree of Pisces. We're at the very end of the cycle. We're at that, it's like 11:59, minute before midnight energy, right? Midnight hour energy, when Mercury stops its retrograde. 7:36 a.m. my time, right? So like, I think 2:36 a.m. Eastern time. Then at 3:46, so what, like 7 hours after Mercury stations to go, after 7 hours after Mercury stops its retrograde phase, 7 hours later, the sun enters into Aries at 0 degrees. Okay? And then 4 hours later, Mercury goes direct at 7:33 p.m. my time, 2:33 p.m. Eastern time. I think 11:33 like LA time, to give you some perspective. So if I'm correct, because I don't look at the charts for everywhere, that 33-minute mark is where the sun entered Aries probably everywhere in the world, irregardless as to the hour. Why is this important? Because Friday, the 20th of March, what does that break down to, guys? 33. What is 33? A degree of mastery. What does 33 as a mastery number actually denote? It denotes self-mastery. Self-mastery. If anything, it's even deeper than self-mastery. 33 is where you begin to bring forth your source code in your body on the earth. It's what we've referred to as ascended mastery, right? Ascended mastery, in my opinion, and you're more than welcome to disagree with me. In my opinion, ascended mastery is when you are able to embody your source code and you're able to walk in the fullness of what they lied to you in the false matrix and told you was supernatural. That is your natural, disposition in source. So that's what ascended mastery is. I often will say your Aries energy is your I am truth. What does AM also stand for? Ascended mastery. I am that I am. Aries is the doorway back to your I am truth. It's the doorway back to reclaiming your mastery. And I've been talking since the beginning of the year with the first video I did when I returned to this channel. I did the full moon in Cancer. And I've been speaking about how Aries energy is so loud this year. And even before, anything had moved into Aries, this was before Saturn and Neptune had moved into Aries, I was feeling that Aries energy. It was so potent. It was so potent because when Aries energy begins to enter the chat, it means it's time for something completely new to begin in some ways, but it's also complete like reclamation of your power. It's taking back of your crown. It's taking back of your personal authority. It's taking back of your mastery codes. And this year, I've also said 2026, it is a year where a lot of your original master codes are returning to the earth. Through that eclipse corridor last year with the 2 new moons in Virgo, a lot of the master codes of the earth began to return. This year, it's about your personal codes of mastery returning, which is exactly why your nervous system is being made ready to hold it. And what is the main sign that begins to open the gate for master codes to return? What do you think it is, guys? It's Aries. Saturn has gone ahead in Aries. So the whole renegotiation of time on the earth is already at play. And not only that, but when we had the new moon in Pisces a few days ago, Saturn was in Aries at the 3rd degree. What is 3? 3 is the Empress in the tarot. 3 is Gemini energy astrologically, but it's the Empress. So what is Saturn speaking to us through this 3rd degree of Aries as the moon finishes out its time, the sun finishes out its time rather, through its turn through the zodiac wheel, in the final sign of the zodiac wheel? What is Saturn speaking to us at that juncture? Well, it's a whole new birthing. 3 has to do with birthing. It's a whole new birthing or rebirthing process when it comes to how we relate to time. And why am I saying how we relate to time? Very specifically because that Gemini degree, that 3, it's about how you begin to expand your mind to hold grander concepts that allow for you to connect with your infinite and multidimensional truth. You see, in the false matrix, in order to get you under the control of time, they had to shrink your consciousness into not being able to access certain information about yourself so that you could then be controlled. When you're dealing with Gemini energy, you're dealing with how you're being broken out of mental prison so that your consciousness can expand and touch things to bring you back into contact with your multidimensional infinite truth. And because you're dealing with Saturn in Aries at a Gemini degree that is also connected to the Empress card, you are literally dealing with how a whole new concept of how we are able to relate with time is being birthed on the earth again. Or I should say rebirthed, because this is nothing new. In fact, as we went through the new moon in Pisces, have you been paying attention to your dreams and downloads? Because I know on my end, I felt that shit. The new moon in Pisces, it started to talk to me. It started to tell me things about myself that I needed to remember. Like wild shit. Like things that, I don't know, like everything just started to make sense in some way, given the information that was being shared with me. And I was just like, wow. And I knew it was because the new moon in Pisces had opened that door for me to reconnect with information about myself and my previous timelines and incarnations on the earth in a really powerful way. So if it did that for me, I know it did that for others too, because this new moon in Pisces, it's unlocking the true grids of the earth. And within those true grids of the earth, I've talked about this before, live the memory of who you've been on the earth. And you're dealing with water. So that memory is going to flood your emotional field. It's going to come to you in downloads. It's going to come to you in dreams. It's going to come to you in feeling. It's going to come to you in sudden, like, inner knowing that you feel and you know in your soul is right. That's what it is. And so, like I said, this new moon in Pisces, it hasn't felt like a new moon. It's felt like a full moon because it's closing out something big. And you know what it's closing out in a big way? It's closing out the age of ignorance. It's closing out a huge fucking age of ignorance. A lot of where it is that you were not able to see who you are because of all of the false ass narratives and scripts that you've been programmed into believing about yourself, and that other people were trying to throw your way to get you to believe about yourself. That shit don't work no more. How many of you have been experiencing this in the past few days? I wrote about this on the community board and I asked you guys, how are you going through this too? Because what I've begun to notice as we've gone through this new moon in Pisces corridor and as the sun entered into Aries is that things that once upon a time could easily pass as being something benign no longer can if they're not. And what do I mean? I'm talking about like people being disingenuous, for example, but not even purposely, like people who are that way with themselves and trying to come to you as if they're authentic in some way. Like the way that this energy is like no longer allowing us to be ignorant of first and foremost our own mechanisms that unconsciously cause us to create suffering. It is like helping everything that's been hidden behind illusion to be seen if you want to. Of course, it's only if you want to, because many people are still consenting to ignorance. They're going to consent to it. They've recontracted themselves through this sun entering into Aries. They recontracted themselves into ignorance. They like being unaware. It makes them feel better, right? But for many of you, source encoded beings who are here to shift the earth back into fucking alignment with source code, the age of ignorance is over. It's over. And it's been over, but now it's over in a way that's tangible and material. Like the things that once upon a time were designed to keep fooling you, to keep you in certain cycles within yourself. You can't be fooled anymore. So this new moon, it's like, yeah, it's the dawn of something, absolutely. But more than anything, it's like the wrapping up. Show is over. Let's clear the stage. Let's clear the stage. Let's move this shit away now. It's time for a whole new, I don't even want to say a whole new drama. It's a whole new season. It's a whole new season. Okay, so I'm not going to go into this today, probably tarot astrology bit by bit, because I'm coming in so late from the new moon in Pisces, and because we're dealing with so much stuff in terms of the sun in Aries, Mercury, retrograde, the equinox, everything. So I'm just going to continue to talk like this and pull from the chart, if that's okay. I probably will return to regular pulling from each placement next time. But we're already at the 54th minute of this segment of this video. So I'm just going to talk about what it is I'm really feeling here. Another thing I want to, hone in on about Mercury is that Mercury now, it went direct, like I said, 4 hours after the sun entered Aries. So the sun enters Aries at 0 degrees. 0 degree is 0 anywhere is a portal. It's the 0 point. It's the womb. It's where all things are possible. But when you're dealing with the Aries energy, that 0 point becomes even more pronounced. It's why the Fool card in the tarot is also said to be Aries energy, because that 0 point of birth, the birthing of a whole new cycle, it comes through Aries at the 0 degree mark. So we have the sun entering and all things become possible again. I don't know if you guys felt it yesterday when you felt the shift as the sun left Pisces and entered into Aries, but things have been shedding. Have you been feeling the shedding? Things have been melting away. You might not yet see it materially, but you can feel it. Something is changing, something is moving, something is dying, something is going. And as that occurs, something is coming back. What is that? What did I say to you about the new moon in Pisces and the final new moon of those 6 new moons at that Cancerian degree with the true earth grids releasing back onto the earth the information that you need, that is yours? A lot of your true contracts, the codes that have been locked up, especially the codes that have been locked up because other people have been fucking doing their ritual work. 1944 on my clock as I say this. A lot of those old world contracts that were achieved through ritual and keeping you blocked for other beings to be able to access you so they could thrive in the false matrix, those contracts are dead. They're dead. And those beings who have attached themselves to those contracts, a lot of what it is that they have been accruing through keeping you blocked, it's going. And as it's going, it's returning to its rightful place because the grids of the earth are declaring that it must be so. This is why you're seeing a lot of the shit you're seeing in the so-called Hollywood scene. This is why the Oscars was a whole like I think it was like the lowest rating broadcast of that in history. I don't follow that shit too much, but I've seen it come up on my algorithm and I'm not surprised. Even their fucking rituals are becoming more obvious. I already knew a certain actor was going to win on Sunday based upon what he was put through as a humiliation ritual in the London Awards. Like everything is becoming like where once upon a time you could see those things if you knew. Now people are just seeing those things because it's just fucking obvious. Because again, like I said, the age of ignorance is over. The age where they were able to create the illusions they needed in order to take from others, it's not working anymore. It's not working anymore. Okay, so 4 hours after the sun entered into Aries, we had Mercury going direct at the 8th degree. Now, why is this important? Because I remember when Mercury went retrograde a few weeks back, and I did a short on here and on my other channel talking about how it was going retrograde while the sun was in Pisces at 8 degrees. So Mercury went retrograde 3 weeks ago when the sun was in Pisces at 8 degrees and Mercury was in Pisces at 22 degrees. It began its retrograde phase. And now, while the sun is in Pisces at the closing degree, the 29th degree, Mercury goes direct, or Mercury stations to go direct at 8 degrees. And then once the sun enters Aries at 0 degrees, it goes direct at 8 degrees. So in other words, it stopped its retrograde phase at the 29th degree of Pisces when the sun was in Pisces at 29 degrees. But it didn't begin to move, you could say, until the sun entered Aries at 0 degrees. Now, why is this interesting also? Because 8 degrees, it is a degree of Scorpio astrologically, but it also connects us to Leo energy in the tarot. And 29 degrees is a Leo degree. So we have Mercury, just so we can, because this is it can be confusing. We have Mercury going retrograde when the sun is in Pisces at 8 degrees, Scorpio degree of transformation, rebirth. We're also being shown, that Mercury retrograde was designed to maybe take us into the underworld in some ways. but to bring us right back, to take us there under the guidance of the sun, because the sun is at the 8th degree of Pisces, right? And then 3 weeks later, when the sun is at the 29th degree, Mercury has moved all the way back to the 8th degree and is ready to come out of its retrograde phase. So again, this 8th degree of Pisces, very important, because what else is happening at the 8th degree? Well, the North Node was at 8 degrees. The North Node was at 8 degrees for the new moon in Pisces. 1 second. And it had just entered the 7th degree when the sun entered. Oh, no, sorry. My bad. The North Node was at 8 degrees Pisces for the new moon in Pisces on Thursday or Wednesday, wherever you are in the world. It was still at that 8th degree when Mercury stopped its retrograde phase about 30 hours later. Then, about 7 hours after Mercury stopped its retrograde, the sun entered into Pisces. Let's see. The sun entered into Aries, my bad. And the North Node was at 8 degrees and 0 minutes. When the sun entered into Aries, guys, at the 0 degree mark, 0, the North Node was at 8 degrees, 0. And then a couple of hours later, when Mercury started to go completely direct again, the North Node was at 7 degrees and 59 minutes. Okay, so that 8th degree of Pisces, it's important. And very importantly also, Mercury went direct at 8 degrees and 29 minutes. So here we have that 29 again, that Leo degree. And not for nothing, that 29 degree is not just any kind of Leo degree. It also speaks to us a little bit about Regulus, that 29 degrees of Leo, which is a star that regulates law on the planet. So Mercury now going direct at the 8th degree. This is really speaking to us about, because you're dealing with 8 of Cups energy now. When you're getting into Pisces from 0 to 10 degrees energy, 0 to 9 degrees energy, you're dealing with the 8 of Cups. So what is the 8 of Cups? The 8 of Cups is when you begin to walk away from those things that you've wrongfully attached yourself to. And you've attached yourself to those things a lot of the time in an effort to get something that you should be getting from yourself or from source. And when you begin to realize that you've outsourced in some kind of way, that's when it's time to walk away. When you realize that what it is that you've attached yourself to has made your source code and your ability to walk in your source code, it's made that vulnerable. The 8 of Cups is when you have to make that decision, no matter how much you care about that thing, that person, that situation, you have to walk away from it. You see, sacrifice is a real thing and it's necessary, but not in the way the false matrix wanted us to believe. At every turn, we are to sacrifice that which would have us sacrificing our connection to source. We're not here to sacrifice people in order to have access to their codes, which is what they were doing in the false matrix. We are here to sacrifice everything that gets in between us and our source code and our connection to source. And a lot of the times, those things are not even going to be outside of ourselves. They're going to be in the ways that we relate to ourselves internally. We have to start walking away from those things internally. And then once we make that sacrifice, we separate ourselves from that which separates us from being true to ourselves. Then externally, we start to walk away from that which has been growing off of that self-betrayal. So the 8 of Cups is where we start to walk away from the things that we have created out of self-betrayal that's been very subtle, because we were tricked through illusion into believing that what we were actually following was in some way, for our sustenance or even for our growth. Remember, when you're dealing with Piscean energy, you're dealing with tricky energy. You're dealing with things that are very subtle. You're dealing with things that are very illusory and appear real. This is why Pisces is also in the tarot. We deal with it's the high priestess, because you need the high priestess energy in order to navigate what it is that you are dealt through the Piscean window. And not because Pisces is tricky and, bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. But because Pisces is where you can lose yourself if you're not seeing clearly and you're not rooted and grounded in who you are. It's easy. And Pisces season is where people will constantly try to, a lot of the time unconsciously, but it don't matter. They will try to pull you back into states of being and thinking and doing that are very subtle forms of self-betrayal. And if you haven't woken up to seeing your own subtle mechanics, your own, covert and hidden ways that you contribute to the creation of your own cycles of suffering. If you haven't been able to wake up and see that, then those very subtle attempts to pull you back into forms of self-betrayal that often will feel more familiar than being, really true to self. It's easy to occur through Pisces season and through Piscean windows, and sometimes through like greasy Pisceans, like people who carry that Piscean energy and they use it to manipulate. And this isn't me being funny. Everyone can manipulate through all the signs. All the signs have their shadow energies, and we can all use them. You don't have to be a Pisces to use manipulative Piscean energy. Just try to manipulate someone emotionally, or try to make them do something for your benefit without giving them the full details. That is, the exploitative Piscean energy. We are all able to use that. And not only are we all able to use that, we've all been programmed to do it subtly to others, but also to ourselves. So when I talk about the signs and their shadows, I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about energy, because we all can utilize those energies for better or for worse. And that's how it's supposed to be. So this portal, this new moon in Pisces, Sun in Aries, Mercury going direct, equinox, new year, astrological new year, Jupiter going direct a week ago. It's been the end of an age of ignorance. And in the ending of that ignorance, a lot of illusion, a lot of things that were illusory or were hidden under like the sleight of hand or very covert and subtle mechanics to appear a way that they weren't. All of that is coming to the light. And in that, this window has been, what are you going to walk away from? Mercury retrograde's been showing you, what is it that you still need to walk away from? What is it that you need to surrender? What is it that you need to be aware you're giving life to, where you should be pulling the plug? And now with the Sun in Aries, it's going to become even more blatantly apparent, because now it's time to take action on that. And then Jupiter is expanding those places where you need to see the mechanics of what lies in your foundations that has been contributing to your cycles. And then Mercury going direct in the Eight of Cups, and Mercury is about to move through the second decan of Pisces again, the Nine of Cups. It's time to refine. It's time to refine your commitment to yourself, your commitment to your source code, your commitment to living in ways that express your true harmonic coherence. even if it means that that's going to upset the ego of others. Because most of the time, it's the ego that's going to be upset. When you choose to rise into your source code and someone else has a problem, most of the time, it's not an issue of the soul, it's an issue of the ego. Because the soul will recognize that even if you're doing what doesn't feel comfortable to them, that you're doing the right thing for yourself, and therefore in some ways you must be doing the right thing for them too. Because that's how it works. When you're true to your soul, you can be true to other people's souls too, even when they're not being true to themselves. And that oftentimes is the discrepancy that comes up. The discrepancy that comes up when people get upset, when you are being true to yourself and your source code. Like I said, it's most of the time an ego thing that is born from the fact that they're not being true. So a lot of the time, people will try to pull you into things that are not truly frequentially aligned. And they'll try to manipulate you or manipulate the energy to try to make it fit or try to make it work. That again is Piscean energy. It's Piscean shadow energy. They won't just accept the fact that it's not a match. They then want to fight you and insult you and then just fully expose to you what you already knew, which is why you walked away to begin with, that it wasn't a frequential match. So that's going to continue to occur as Mercury begins to move through the second decan of Pisces again. You're going to be compelled to leave and to walk away from things. And in some of those instances, people are not going to fully comprehend why it is that you're making that decision. Because it might be very like, nobody has to do anything to you for you to realize that they're not a frequential match. But some people they still live in that like place of ego where they believe if you don't agree with them or if your energies are not matching, that somehow you feel there's a problem with them or there must be a problem with you. It doesn't have to be like that. It just means that we're not aligned. One person doesn't have to be good and the other person evil for things not to work. Sometimes two good people, things don't work. There's no frequential alignment. And if you want to co-create golden age timelines on the earth, then you need to be in frequential alignment with the people that you are co-creating with, not through pretense, not through farce, not through forcing, but through frequency, through code, through your harmonic resonance meeting theirs and it not clashing. So I'm going to close it out there. My battery is getting lower. And I think I've talked a lot at this point. I hope that this information has been helpful. I hope it's been activating as fuck. I hope that where there have been cobwebs, they've been blown the fuck away. I hope that where there were still things of illusion trying to make you feel a certain type of way to pull you back where you don't belong, I hope those illusions have been shattered. I wish those of you who are, doing this beautiful work of awakening into your mastery codes, into your mastery, I wish you a beautiful, new, happy and new astrological year. And keep doing it because this is what is awakening the grids too. This is already a co-creative, co-collaborative effort that we are walking through with the earth. So for all information on how to work with me, that will be in the pinned comment section below. If you would like to treat me to a cup of coffee, or you would like to tip me or to donate to my work here, you can do so through my Ko-Fi. That's ko-fi.com/Solarah Rises. Thank you so much to those of you who do sow back into me in a myriad of ways. I really do appreciate it. I'm looking very forward to my group tomorrow. It's sold out. It's called Remembering Your System. And I might be offering it again at another point in time. We'll see, maybe even next Sunday, we'll see. But yes, I look forward to seeing those of you who have signed up for that group tomorrow. What else? I'm no longer doing tarot astrology readings, full rebirth, so please don't come to me with that anymore. I have been giving that announcement since January. All slots are filled up until May. What else? What else? There will be new offerings coming in the realm of tarot astrology. I'm just no longer doing full rebirth readings or reports for now. We'll see. We'll see. But for now, I'm done with that. So what else? I think that's it. Um, if you would like to access my library of decrees, you can also do that through my Ko-Fi shop. If you would like to book a soul recovery session, you can also do that through my Ko-Fi shop. If you would like a personal divine alignment reading with me, where we can go into your chart, we do some tarot astrology in that too. You can book that with me directly by emailing me at solarahspeaks@proton.me. Okay, so I will see you guys again when I see you. For those of you who might be new here, or you've only connected with me through this channel, I also have another channel, my original channel, Solarah Speaks, where I do more readings and downloads. This is my channel for getting into the astrology of the new and the full moons. Okay, so just so you're aware, I think that's it. I will see you again when I see you. Until then, be well.